Oh, that's messed up. All right. We'll connect it this way then. I hate technology when it does shit like this. Well, that's not very bright at all. Okay. Hopefully you guys can tell me if the feed's not the right way. For some reason, twisted it the other way. It's probably because I was trying to be proactive and took a picture of the thumbnail before it was connected. So it might have been 180 degrees the way I normally took it. It just assumed I was standing on my head or something like that. I don't know. The mysteries of the internets. All right. Well, we don't need glasses. We got our contacts out, so we can't see shit until we take them off, and then it's supervision. All right. So this is the row house building that we were working on last night. I was going to say, I got about half done now. I don't really have a clue. There's a lot to do on it. There's a lot of nooks and crannies and things like that. We've got this top level to paint on the inside. Of course, the wooden floors, and shutters and the like. So I think I'm going to, what I should do is actually paint the inside here of this top floor. This one's a little yellow. This one's a little white. I don't know what I'm going to do for this top one. Probably make it white with maybe a different another off color. I don't want to get too creative. This isn't a modern environment where people have all this kind of color. As a matter of fact, if this was somewhere in Europe, in Western Europe, there's a good chance that a lot of this would have wallpaper, which I detest wallpaper. Anytime I've had wallpaper in a house I've bought, I've taken it down. Actually, this one didn't have any, but the previous house had wallpaper like a lot. My condo had a lot of wallpaper, and the other house had a lot of wallpaper. So let's paint. Let's do something with this, and go from there. So let's see what colors we got here. Those are all whites. This is, I wanted to say I had another gray. Oh, okay, I have this gray and this gray. Let me use the lighter one as the base color, of course. Let's put this somewhere I can reach it when I need it. And good morning, Ben. We talk about movies on here a lot. I'm not a big movie watcher, but I think the reason we talk about movies is just about everybody has watched a movie. Even if you've been in prison. Even if you're in prison being held down, you've watched a movie. And on my Facebook feeds, it's usually what I check when I'm eating breakfast. And I already had breakfast. Of course, why would I start this without my reward for surviving the night is having breakfast. And one of the things on here, and I thought I was going to, while I was typing this, I'm like, I'm going to talk about this. And I think this is something that just about anybody can have an opinion on. And I'm going to tell you what my opinion is after at least one of you chimes in. And I say that because sometimes I pose these questions and folks don't jump on them. It's not trying to pigeonhole you or anything. But one of these movie groups that Facebook things that I don't know if I've subscribed to it. It comes up often. Posed this question. And the question was, what movie villain, I'm going to ad-lib this. What movie villain did you like so much that you said, fuck the good guy, I'm with this guy? What movie villain did you side with, so to speak? Maybe not 100%, but maybe you like sympathized with them. And I said, that's a damn good question, because there's got to be several of them. And I'm like, I can't think of anybody right now. So I went through a list of most beloved villains or something like that, and it didn't help much. But it did come across one that that I do feel that way about. And it might be a combination of you sympathize with the character, or maybe you sympathize with the actor, because really the actor is all about it. It's really hard to like a character if you hate the actor. Whereas you could actually like a character because you like the actor, even though they're kind of despicable. So that was the question that was asked. And I did chime in on some public forum, so who knows if I'll come back and somebody's going to have a moo cow over my answer. But when you have those public forums and somebody asks for your opinion, you give it, and somebody has a problem with your opinion, that's their problem. Hey, they asked me for my opinion. Everybody's entitled to one. Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. Dr. Zaius. Who? Who is that? Well, I can't search for it because, yeah, I can. Let's fire up the computer. Dr. Zaius. Don't give it away. Let's see who this is. I bet it's probably a movie I haven't seen because I've not seen most movies. I know you won't like the answer because the whole human supremacy thing, but man, that ape had a point at the end there. Oh, is that a Planet of the Apes thing? I haven't seen Planet of the Apes. There's enough chimps in real life. I don't need to see more on the silver screen. Just you and me are going to playing this? Well, I would have never guessed that because I haven't seen that movie. Whereas you've seen the movie where my answer comes from. And I'm going to let you guess. I would say that if you're a war gamer, you've seen this movie. And I'm going to give you a hint. Let's see what this monkey brain motherfucker looks like. Do I think people came from apes? Only the ugly ones. Downfall, yeah. Yeah, I know. You think he was crazy or just deranged? I think he was, I don't read into the political stuff, but I have a feeling he wasn't the most evil person in the Third Reich. I'm not trying to say he was a good guy. I mean, he was a dickhead. And he was short and had a shitty mustache. So, all those things against him. I'm just saying that there's probably people in the Third Reich that were much worse than him. He just happened to be they were close. It's not like, like I think Himmler was probably worse. Let's see here. Dr. Zaius. Let's see what this monkey fucker looks like. and then I'll get back to giving you clues on. I don't care what's new on Chrome. Let me in here. Doctor. Well, I could barely make out these keys. Yep, he's a damn monkey. Here's a video. Dr. Zayas was right. Is the main antagonist, the original Planet of the Apes. Yeah, I never seen any of the movies or original movie. What is Dr. Zayas a parody of? Uh-oh. I don't think that's... Yeah, I haven't seen that. Hitler thought that one magazine editor, Stryker, was a lunatic. Maybe the guy was all right. All right, back to my questions. It's only you and I are going to play, I guess. Everybody else is asleep. It's in a war movie, and it's about a movie. It's about a war that I don't game. I don't war game this movie. I don't war game this movie. I don't war game this period. It didn't take you long to answer Dr. Zayas. Maybe I have to watch that, see what he's up to. Maybe he's just a human supremacist for guys that aren't humans. Never seen any of the Planet of the Apes stuff. Honestly, I don't know. I think it was a movie, right? Originally, it was a movie, and then there was a series, right? And not talking about the new movies, which are relatively new. I don't know. I'm not huge on science fiction, and the science fiction I have watched was because back in the day, it's what was showing on Sunday morning TV. So if you wanted to see something, if you're a kid and you want to see something on TV on Sunday morning, which is one of those prime movie TV watching times when I was growing up, you kind of had to watch whatever the hell they were feeding you, whether or not you liked Lost in Space. So, all right, let's see if you have your answer, and then I'm not gonna keep people guessing. Oh no, Stryker was a guy making up all sorts of strange Jewish sex and magic stories. A movie series and a TV series. What do I sit on my own? Why am I sit on my own damn leg? My candidate was Sergeant Barnes in Platoon. Of all the characters in Platoon, although I did like what's his name, but he really kind of had a minor role. Although he did survive, I got a bad feeling about this Sarge. I watched that movie. When did I watch it recently? I've watched it on a flight back from Canada, so not that long ago. I think I watched it. That's when it was. So I guess that wasn't that long ago. And enjoyed it, although once I found out about Oliver Stone and his drug habits, I'm wondering, okay, was everybody blitzed at this when they were filming this? It's kind of hard to forget that. Yeah, I wonder why Planet of the Apes was so popular. I mean, I guess people like apes. I don't know. I don't. Never been a thing for me. Planet of the Hyenas. Be a lot more howling than that one. I had a couple people growing up that were really into the Vietnam War. I was never into it. I don't. I was going to say I don't even know somebody that was in it, but that's not true. I do know someone that was in it, but they weren't my family. Let's see, my people had come over already, but just never interested. Not really a fan of asymmetrical warfare, as I'm painting partisans. Well, there's more to it than just you know the Germans fighting freedom fighter type people. I mean, if you're a Maquis and you're fighting for the communists, are you really fighting for freedom? I saw a lot of that commie bullshit in Mexico. I couldn't believe it. I should have taken pictures of it, but we were on a walk through, and my new phone is driving me crazy. It has a code, it times out after a short period of time, and then I get locked out of it, and I have to enter the code, and it's not a difficult code, but I fat finger it a lot, and it's just frustrating. So, the old phone I would just pop up and snap a camera and put it back down, but I guess I probably should have a security code on there. Or the random person find all my juicy photos or something. I don't know. Probably should have some kind of security on there. So Planet of the Apes. His original movie has Charlton Heston in it, right? I'm just, I'm shooting from the hip. I don't know. I know a person whose favorite actor is Charlton Heston. That's not me. He actually doesn't do much for me. I think he's very. I think he's like. I think he's like Harrison Ford in that he's very limited in his role ability. He just kind of does him, and that's who he does. Has the Falklands ever interested me for gaming? What, all 2 weeks of it? No, no, it hasn't. The only thing interesting about the Falklands to me is both sides. If I'm not mistaken, both sides use that rifle. I find is very, very sexy. The FAL. I think both sides use that. Other than that, nah, it just didn't really interest me. I remember when it happened when I was a kid, and then just like every kid, forgot about it was going on. But the battle for the sheep herders. Now there's some things that might be interesting to game, um, but I just haven't gotten around to it. The '56 war, the Suez Crisis in '56, I think could be interesting. I think I looked into it a little bit because I think that you could do some what if stuff. Not that I'm really into modern ship combat, but in 1956, if I remember correctly, HMS Vanguard is still active, which is a battleship. I love battleships. I really do. I really love battleships. And they should be kings of the battlefield. I'm sorry, missiles is just not very exciting. So in the '56 crisis, I believe Vanguard was around. Jean Bart was around. You know, um, just from ships that are no longer with us. Well, technically, all of them are no longer with us. There aren't any. active battleships. But you know, I'm not. Let's get the Iowas out of the equation. One of the other groups that I frequent often is one of the naval groups, and they're always saying, talking about British ships that should have been preserved. And these people always bring up Vanguard. And I'm like, Vanguard's a piece of shit, okay? Look, it came out after the war was over, didn't do anything, and it had, and using the 15-inch guns on it is going backwards in time from HMS Rodney. That's the weird thing about the British Navy in the Second World War. I know that there's reasons that they did it, but in the 1920s, they went from the 15-inch gun to the 16-inch gun on the Rodney, and then that was like the pinnacle. Then it went down. Then they reverted to the 14s, and I know there's reasons that they did it, but if you're going to preserve a World War II British battleship, it's Warspite. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It's like it shouldn't even be a second thought. Not Vanguard, that's used old turrets, never won an action. You know. Anyhow, I digress. But the 56 crisis is interesting because you got propeller aircraft, you got jet aircraft, you got all kinds of different. It just doesn't seem like it's very. Just seems kind of one-sided. It's going to be one of those. Well, you got to come up with these wing conditions that are very asymmetrical. Mr. Pomfret, welcome. Welcome back. So no, the Falklands have never interested me. Sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody. I can't be into everything. But like I said, the Vietnam War has never interested me for wargaming. And many other periods. Let's now what is it that somebody gets interested in a period? You know, I don't like it when enemies are really, really different from each other. I don't like them when they're too similar. So I really dislike the American Civil War. Or periods where, you know, things are too similar. Like that's one of the things that never really attracted me about Napoleonics is, yes, I understand that there's difference of the facings and stuff like that, but a lot of the uniforms are very similar to each other. And just never got into it. Don't hate the period, just never got into it. And watching Napoleon, the Napoleon movie, didn't do the job of getting me interested. God, I was just so freaking poor. You know, but I think that movie was really poor because some of you had really unrealistic expectations of how good it was going to be. All right, let's get a little bit of white here. Have I been wargaming with my World War II figures and vehicles? Have you seen videos of me wargaming with them? No. The answer is no. Not yet. We are working. We have tightened up the view on it and working towards that goal. So we're going to build us a village here. And I don't want a war game with just felt and shit. I mean, the battlefield's going to look good, or I'm not going to do it. So this is a step towards making the battlefield look good. So there's not really a timeline, thank goodness. But winter at the earliest. Winter at the earliest, as it sits right now. But it's gonna look good, or I'm not gonna do it. I am 100% behind that, and it's jealousy. I'm tired of you people across the pond. Not everybody, but all the pictures of the really good scenes seem to be from across the pond. My favorite painters are from jolly old you know where. Seems like it. And you guys have those great looking um, scenes in those wargaming magazines. That's the games I want to play. I don't want to play some asshole who uses lichen and felt. Been there, done that. Not motivating. You have to watch Waterloo to wash that Napoleon movie rancid fetish stench from your soul. Don't worry, Lady Luck has a few years of bad dice rolls saved up for me. I roll better than my opponents, or at least I think I do. You know, anytime there's a game that involves die rolling, it's an opportunity for greatness. Not like, oh, woe is me, I'm going to wonder what Lady Luck's going to do. I'm like, fuck you, I got better luck than my opponent. Besides, I'm not going to be playing. That's not true. I'm going to be playing one side, but I don't care if they win. It's all about narrative. Okay, we've got some drainage pipes off the roof. Interesting, there's no floor tiles on this one. There's no roof tiles on any of these. Very interesting. I think I'm going to do the floor now. I think we're going to go ahead and do the floor. All right, let's grab. Hell, I don't know what color I was using for the floor. It doesn't really matter. We're going to mix it anyways. I saw the Waterloo movie once. I didn't love it either. Obviously, it's better. My biggest problem with the Waterloo movie is it's basically like, you know, but it is it's questionably the best Napoleonic movie out there, right? I think most people would agree. I don't know that I know anyone who has a bad opinion of the movie Waterloo. But it's like your best World War II movie is about the Battle of Berlin, which questionably Downfall is a pretty freaking good movie. And it is literally the final days of the Fuhrer. So, but it's basically that. It's like, you know, it doesn't show. If you take somebody who, as a military commander of the quality of Napoleon, and I'm not a Napoleonic expert by any stretch of the imagination, but he was a pretty astute guy as far as when it came to winning battles. I think everybody would agree with that. And he usually comes up in the top 5 of greatest military commanders of all time. Pretty consistent. And you don't show any of that in the battle. You know, so I don't know, they should have done it about a different battle, I guess. They could also do Waterloo, but just do it with graphics from video games. That way you can show those horses charging into people and chopping them up. Very astute commander. That's my problem with Waterloo. Is it's just kind of like you just have to assume that he has all that in the bag of chips and he loses the battle. So power through. That's right. If you give up, the other guy wins. Persistence is the key to victory. Speaking of which, I got to go to work today. But I'm not giving up my paint morning. Probably at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 hours worth, but it's going to be on my terms. Wearing comfortable clothing. It's either that or go in tomorrow. I don't want to go in tomorrow. Next week's going to be hell. Because I'm going to have to do the same stunt next Friday. Get ready to be gone for a week. So I don't want to be bent at the front and the back end. So. But do some cleanup on the walls, but it's not as big a deal as I would have thought. Part of it is it's a destroyed building, so it's easier to cover up. Not that it's that messy. Because that's the one thing about nearsighted is I can only fool myself so much. You know, I don't have my contacts in right now, so I can see like every mistake or anything I may be trying to get over. So, you know, it's not like I'm going to get done with it and then take pictures and go, oh shit, that looks like crap. And that shouldn't happen. Okay, I think that's okay for the bottom floor color. I'm just going to do all of them in the same color. If I need to go back and change them a little bit, I will. This is what I was really worried about way back when, was painting the floor, that it looked realistic. But I've done a couple of them that I've been happy with. So that's good, because the next thing you know, you're stuck in this analysis paralysis and you don't get anything done. You got chimneys with, what's the open unit chimney called? Anyhow, chuck grenades through there and hurt people on the bottom floor. I think the secret to scenarios is start small. Make something manageable. You know, if you can handle 3 people, then maybe the next battle you can handle 4 per person, kind of thing. Not start with, man, it just didn't work out with everybody running a platoon. Well, no wonder, man. Well, Tony, I've been caught up in other things for a while, but it's good to catch up with you again. I know real life is a pain in the butt. Mr. Paddy, welcome back, man. Trouble with Napoleonics in the UK is everyone thinks it's only about Waterloo. Only a precious few look at the Peninsula, and even fewer the exciting battles of the Revolutionary Wars, 1909 or 1913. I would think the Peninsular stuff would be popular because, your folks were over there. Of course, what a third of the English army was Portuguese, Dutch, Belgian. I don't know. I think that makes it interesting. You get to paint one army and lots of different stuff in there. All those troops pretty much operate about the same. I guess that's what never really caught my eye. It doesn't matter whether and yes, there's differences of uniforms and facing, but a Stuart tank behaves a lot different than a Sherman, more than, different regiments. It doesn't mean I won't play a Napoleonic game. I certainly played them and certainly enjoyed them, but I didn't see Waterloo until it's probably in my 30s. They didn't play it on TV. Didn't play it on television. When I was available to watch it or something, never watched it. $1970, right? I think it's like 1970. Something like that. No, Waterloo's like the last freaking battle. But Napoleonics to me is a lot more interesting than, say, the Lace War stuff. Because the Lace War stuff, the armies are even more similar to each other. Everybody's wearing tricorns. I mean, the flags are cool, but the flags are almost always cool of any period. Now, there's a battlefield that I went to a couple of years ago that I didn't know anything about, and it was actually kind of interesting, and it was that tricorn period, and it did get me to read about some history that I wouldn't have normally. And it was this battlefield that's out in St. Simon's Island in Georgia. It was all about War of Austrian Succession, or whatever the hell it was called over here, Jenkins' Ear or something like that. And Battle of Bloody Marsh or something like that. You're talking like 200 guys on one side. I think the Spanish had more troops than the English, but I don't think anybody even had 1,000 troops. So it was just basically a skirmish. But even within those 1,000 or so troops, there was all kinds of different units. I mean, there was Scots, and there was Highlanders, and all kinds of different units. So, I mean, that's almost kind of like a skirmish type game with almost something you would see in, if you're talking about a couple hundred guys, I would just assume that almost in every case, they'd all be the same unit. But I guess the units were so small that there was not many differentiation. I forget exactly what the manpower count on them, but it was really, really low. Because as a war game where you start going to battlefield and you start thinking, okay, this is how many stands of guys, and how would you represent this? Even though it's a battle, you may not be interested in in wargaming or maybe collecting, but still, that's kind of at your core. You can't help but look at that kind of stuff. But it's a really small engagement. Spanish got thrashed. Spanish didn't win too many battles once they got a French king. Just saying. Just finish up the last army for Dresden, 1813. Only 300 figures left to paint from 5,000. Next up, Leipzig. Battle of all Nations. That wasn't mentioned in that Napoleon movie. How many different people have played Napoleon? Now, obviously, Steiger. That miniseries that was running around in the 80s. Was it the 80s? Early 90s? Late 80s, I think. With the Italian dude. Asante. The guy with an Italian dude to play a Corsican dude. That's not too bad. I don't remember anything about it other than, like, I don't give a shit about a love affair. Like, I don't go watch a historical movie to, see people kissing. It's not. Excuse me. It doesn't bother me. It's just like, that's not what I'm there for. I found an article about the Spanish hussars in Mexico that fought the Apaches during the Napoleonic era. Very strange little conflict. Well, I'll tell you what, and this came up while I was in Mexico recently. These pre-Columbian civilizations in Central and South America make the natives in North America just boring as fuck. I've never been interested, and still to this day, I'm sorry, I can't be into everything. I've never found the native nomadic-esque type tribes of North America even moderately interesting on any level. You know, they just don't interest me. But the guys that were in ancient Mexico are definitely more my kind of thing. And yes, I actually looked and saw what the makings of a DBA Zapotec army were. Just for, just kind of put it into perspective. Not that I'm painting any more DBA armies ever again, but just to kind of put it into perspective. If I was in full force on this, I might say, oh, well, let's play some impetus. I have the rules, but I'm sure there's probably loopholes galore in that too. So, I never played cowboys and Indians growing up. Just not really interested in the North American tribes. I'm not going to be running to go see a mound builder site anytime soon. Hussars had the proper uniform at least the beginning of the campaigns. I say Mexico, but it was Texas in the desert Southwest. Well, you know, Mexico went all the way up to Montana, right? Technically. I kind of say, hey, the Spanish took over this time period. And you ask people like in Washington State, you know, like the natives that were there, they'd be like, who are these Spanish people? You know, they've probably never seen one. It's the same thing as like when the Mongols say, oh, the Mongols had the biggest empire ever. There's people that never even seen a fucking Mongol in the Mongol Empire, you know? And then there's some people that probably saw too much of the Mongols in the Mongol Empire. It just depends on where in the landmass you're sitting in. You're sitting somewhere in Kamchatka, and you probably saw them going through there once, and then they were, you know, like, we don't want to be in this desolate fucking place. We're going to go fuck with the Chinese or something, you know? Aztecs are one of my favorite DBA armies, and mound builders are no slouch. Just doesn't interest me. Just doesn't interest me. Maybe if I read more about them, but yeah, Aztecs are cool, but well, a little too late. A little too late for that. I was ready to do the Conquistador army. I got the Conquistadors and the Tlaxcalan allies, which it's 4 stands of Conquistadors and 8 stands of Tlaxcalans, and you know that's maybe proportionate to the fighting prowess of them, but certainly not to the army. The Conquistadors were only like 5% of the army that was invading. You know, they couldn't have done it if the Aztecs hadn't been such assholes to their neighbors. The Spanish would have never conquered them. You know, it was only, I don't think it was ever more than 2,000 Spanish. I mean, that's like really pushing it. That's after he absorbed the other forces that came to kind of, you know, kick him out of power. And he's like, we're going to kill your commander. And then, hey, you want to join us? There's a shitload of gold up there. And it's like, see, you know, and then they joined him, and, you know, but I don't think the Spanish ever had more than 2,000 people between horses, you know, everything else. Everything else was the Allies. You know, when you make a habit of sacrificing your neighbors, people tend to not like you. When we were in Mexico recently, though, we did have one sunset where the sun was huge and red. And the first thing I thought of is more human sacrifices. You know, there must be something wrong with our sun today. More human sacrifices. Oh, I gotta read this like the white man bring fire meat. Would have been an interesting event with a chorizo introduced to the tribes. I don't know. I like chorizo, but Spanish chorizo. I don't like the Mexican chorizo. As a matter of fact, that was one of those things I was avoiding. Theirs is very iron-ish, like it's got liver meat in there or something like that. I don't care for it. It's also it tastes very, it tastes like how rust smells. I don't like it. Certainly had it on many occasions. I don't really care for it. So much so that when I really hadn't been exposed to the Spanish chorizo much until I got married, and I don't like Mexican chorizo at all. I just forego it. Fire meat. Boom boom sticks. They didn't have that many people with boom boom sticks. I was watching this Kings and Generals episode recently about that conquest, and the first thing that struck me was they did not have a lot of troops that had missile weapons. Talking about the Spanish. As a matter of fact, they didn't have very many cannon, and they had almost as many cannon as they did boom boom sticks, which sounds crazy because a cannon is a pain in the ass to bring with you, and it's heavy, not maneuverable. You know, an arquebus is like a piece of cake comparatively, and they just didn't have very many of them. I mean, I'm talking like 16 or something like that. That's like nothing. 16 in an army of 200, like that's like a really low percentage. So I don't know if that's accurate or not. I did read a book on it or through Audible several years ago, and didn't take notes while I was doing it. But I don't remember that being the case. But I wasn't exactly taking notes. I did play a game, a spinoff of Sword to Flame called The Gold and the Cross or something like that. The Sword, the Gold and the Cross or something. And I played one game of that where we were besieged on this temple, and we had to fight our way out as the Spanish. So that was a lot of troops on that table, all 28 millimeter. You see a white man bring chorizo, but I thought the Spanish were Hispanic, not white. Here we go. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. It's time for some tea. More proof that race stuff is stupid. What's your ethnicity of your ancestors? I should just leave it at that. You know, there's people in Spain that are darker skinned than people in North Africa. You know, it just depends. There's people in North Africa that are just, there's different colored folks everywhere. Skin tone shouldn't be the defining factor of you, just your culturalismness should be. All right, let me get some tea. I'll be right back. That whole race thing was created about a bunch of jealous gingers that couldn't tan. Oh, man. I think we need to do some. I'm surprised this can balance this way as it falls on the ground. Oops. How do I take my tea? NATO standard? Well, first of all, I don't drink anything warm other than soup. So it's American tea. This is actually pre-mixed, some Arnold Palmer type thing. But I like English tea. I just don't like, I like Earl Grey a lot. I just don't, I don't drink anything hot. I'm naturally warm all of the time. So drinking a warm liquid is just weird. And I don't care. It's like, it's just because it's too hot in Florida. Well, it is. But even in the wintertime, I drink cold. I don't drink warm coffee either. My coffee's always cold. So, but I just drink it straight. You know, if I drink coffee, my coffee just has no sugar or cream in it. If it tastes too yummy, you just drink it too fast. You know, I think of drinking coffee almost like having a cigarette, in that it helps you think. It's not for the taste. Although I did know one person that claimed that he liked to smoke because he liked the taste of cigarettes. That's someone who's not well. I've smoked before and lifetimes ago, and it was never for the taste. So, just black. Otherwise, you just go through too much of it. I don't add sugar to anything. Sugar makes me angry, short-tempered, get dehydrated, and I mean, not for no reason. Things got to go wrong, and then you just like, man, my temper's really short. Why? Oh, I had something sweet. Oh yeah. Well, out of my way. The only tea that I can say without a doubt that I do not like is green tea. I don't like green tea, and it has no caffeine, so why even drink it? um, the other thing I don't care for is chai. Although I don't know if I don't think that that's tea. I don't like chai at all. It just tastes like a bunch of spices that hate me, all in one bunch of flavors that hate me all in my mouth. But some people love it. That's fine. Maybe they could take it home and have it. NATO standard. I was reading something or watching a show. God, what was it? No, it was Tick's video. It was Tick's video on Gazala. And he mentioned, he was talking about the grants, how the grant tanks that showed up were pretty effective. And they didn't have very many losses. They were tearing up the panzers in the desert. And one of the losses, they didn't take very many losses, except they had one of them that caught fire because of a tea making accident. Now, I know it gets cold in the desert, but why would you drink hot tea in June of 1942? I know, because you got no ice. So before the English went to India, what did they drink if it wasn't tea? porridge. There's a couple things I find really surprising. One of those things that tea stains things more than coffee. I mean, hell, it's not even that dark. Let's take a look at the other floor and make sure they look, as I like to say, equivalent. You're close. Add a little bit of white in certain places. Fade this out a little bit. Nettle tea, probably. Why tea the desert? We are English, for God's sakes. Yeah, I do like the taste of it. I've got nothing against it other than the temperature. It tastes better than... I don't like the taste of coffee, and I drink it every morning. I really don't. Coffee smells great. Taste... I'd rather drink tea, but tea just doesn't have that kind of caffeine. You know, you drink coffee like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. You go from, I don't know how I'm going to do this to, is that all you got? You know? But the tea actually tastes good. But like I said, I don't even drink hot coffee. When I went to Colorado, I go to Starbucks, I'm wearing a parka. I was like, it was under 20 degrees. I'm wearing a parka drinking cold coffee with ice in it. It's probably warmer than the air temperature outside. But it wasn't that cold. It gets colder in Florida because ours is a wet cold. I don't know what the Celsius temperature is. I've given up on that. I'm pro metric system. I hate the metric temperature. I hate it. It's stupid. No, it makes sense. In reality, yes, but you only use it up to 40. You don't ever talk about, well, it's 62 degrees centigrade. No, it's not. You know, it's never over 40 or 42 or something like that. So you've got half of your scale to 100. It's useless unless you're talking about boiling things. That's why I don't like it. It's hard to kind of wrap your head around what it actually means. I'd rather drive on the left side of the road than I would using Celsius temperature. Wow, that's a bold thing for me to say. No? I don't like Celsius temperature one bloody bit. Is that Boney's doing? Old Boney. Celsius temperature. Bring this up a little bit more. You know, ooh, I just added a little bit, and it was just a whole slew. Well, I'm sure after we seal this, it'll look 10 times. I don't know what it is about sealing it. It just, I guess, evens out all the shininess. Although craft paint is not shiny at all. It is some of the flattest paint ever. As somebody was telling me, or I read somewhere that, yeah, somebody was telling me that. Yeah, well, when I read their words, they were telling it to me. That there's a lot of filler in craft paint. And the pigments was expensive. And the pigment's what's shiny, the filler is flat. So these areas, they have a lot of walking in and out of. Make them look more worn. Right in front of the windows where probably people are standing. I'm pretty happy with that. It's time to get the brick out and bring the brick on up. Now that we shouldn't have to touch the inside of it much. This is the only expensive paint I've used in this, is the Vallejo. You know, this takes a little bit of time, but it's pretty darn mindless. That's why I'm so good at it. Losing my mind here. What level do you World War II you play in? Skirmish company, larger skirmish. Skirmish, you're running on like 2 tanks or a squad at the most. Just think of it as a role-playing game where you're not actually role-playing one person. It's, as I said before, it's all about grenades. Well, what do you mean by that? I said, it makes a matter where the grenade lands. You know, I don't like, you have these games all the time that are skirmish, and you'll have a figure that's like an inch tall, and their grenades only go 4 inches away. I'm like, well, that's some really shitty throwers, you know? So the ground scale is condensed. So, you know, you've got this building, and it might be, you know, you can't engage from one side or the other on it because it's condensed so much. Well, that's fine, but then it means you can't put your figures close enough to where they would normally be. You'd only be able to put, you know, figures 10 meters away from each other each. So it's actual scale, and just think of it as a role-playing game. Except you're not checking for traps and stuff like that. And it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's mine. There's no point in putting this kind of detail in a game, this kind of detail in the figures, and then they're all like, okay, odd or even, they're dead. Like, you know, you get somebody else to paint that then. You know, that's a whole lot of work for very little narrative. So these people that play individual figures or stands and play something like Rapid Fire, which I've played before, it just doesn't motivate me to paint more things for a game that generic. The closest game I'm not playing is Chain of Command. Chain of Command is probably the most popular game that is not quite where I want it to be. It's just not enough detail. It's close. I could probably take Chain of Command and play it a lot and then make my own modifications, but the way it is, it's just too, like, it's not random enough. You have too much control. And I really don't like a D6 system, which Chain of Command, I think, is. This percentile is where it's at for me. Oh, I've played those larger scale games. They don't provide the kind of narrative that I want to see develop on these figures that I'm spending this amount of effort on. So, not trying to convert anybody. That's just what I'm interested in. And maybe people would understand it if they'd seen, if they had played so many other games that like I have that just don't provide the narrative that I'm interested in developing. Need something a little bit more stark. Some places. We're probably not going to see a big difference in this until I go and do the lintels and stuff like that. That's just going to make it pop. But yeah, the whole idea is you don't play a whole company and then move individual figures around. You're making the kind of decisions that you normally wouldn't have. You know, company commander is not picking exactly where people are in the building. Never wish to go larger. I've played larger games. They don't provide the kind of narrative that interests me. You know, I don't want to play a tank game where you have front armor and side armor, and that's it. It's just not detailed enough. Lots of people play that Battlefront or whatever that comes out. I looked at the data on it. It's just too generic. I'm sure it's better than a lot of other things, but Advanced Squad Leader doesn't have the kind of detail that I want. Not when I'm spending 4 hours on a figure. You know, these guys are all named. You know, who's this? Philippe. Yeah, well, Philippe's got a French rifle, and probably that's it. He might have a couple of grenades. You grab a different guy. He's got a stun machine gun. Who's this guy? Mark with a C. You got a stun machine gun. They don't fight the same. I don't want them rolling D6s. You know, it's just a different kind of narrative. You know, and these guys are 6 feet away from each other, not 50 meters. You know, it's a role-playing game. And I think the partisans are perfect to start that with, but I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do that tank fight. So we're building a little town here with the buildings, and I went from never painting a building to painting some buildings. But yeah, I started off playing 1 to 5 scale systems, same scale of rapid fire, with a game called Command Decision. And the tank stuff was okay, but there was too many choices that you get to do that are obvious. And that's what makes a game really boring for me, where it's like there's only one obvious thing to do. So you're basically just sitting around rolling dice. You know, in Command Decision, you basically can move half your movement. You move your full movement, and only fire in the last fire phase, or move up to half of your movement and fire in 2 fire phases, or not move at all and fire in all 3. So most of the time, a lot of it is just you're not moving. You're just sitting there trying to blast the other guy until you get an advantage and then move up and try to exploit it. But it just becomes a little too autopilot and just doesn't provide the kind of narrative that I find that's interesting. You know, is the tank's either in good shape or it's destroyed, or you know, I guess the second version of it was damaged. But none of this. Oh, the crew's shocked and one of the guys is hurt in there. It just doesn't provide the movie moments. You know, it's like I want to see the skirmish stuff that happens, like that silly T-34 movie. And it's silly because the plot is ridiculous, not that the special effects aren't great. The special effects are incredible in that movie. What color did I use for lentils? No, we're going to do this one. we're going to use this gray. So it's not everybody's cup of tea. I've done other stuff before, and it just doesn't motivate me to create new things for it. So very dependent on scenario. Absolutely. Not the, hey, I show up with these guys and you show up with that guy. I'm new to that. I mean, I'm new to that. I played DVA for 18 fucking years, but I'm still new to that. That's not the way I normally operate. So, like I said, my main motivation is having a game that looks like the stuff that you guys have in your magazines. I'm not interested in playing a game that doesn't look that good. It doesn't look that good, I don't want to play it. I'm just, been there, done that. It's unsatisfying. You look at those wargaming magazines, there's people playing these World War II war games. They don't know shit about World War II, but yet they get to play on this awesome battlefield. Well, why don't I get to play on that awesome battlefield? Well, I got to make it. Okay, let's get it done then. That's my motivation. All right, we're going to do all these lintels in this concrete color. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but we did it on the other building and it turned out okay. It's only the base color. It takes a little bit of time and is boring. Battalion scale games, the problem they have them in is somebody invariably gets stuck with the infantry. And battalion scale games, infantry is just boring as shit. You got to get so close, so unrealistically close that the tanks aren't going to let them do that in a game. So it just ends up being all about the tanks. And it's just a different experience. When you're talking about actual scale, there's a distance around a tank, a medium tank, that the tank can't shoot at you. Once you get within, and I got to do but let's just say 25 meters or 15 meters or hell, even 10 meters. Once you get within 30 feet of the tank, you're not going to get hit by the main armament. The main armament isn't going to help you. So, this is a very small battlefield. Even on an 8 foot by 8 foot table, you're still talking about a battlefield that's basically 200 meters by 200 meters. That's pretty zoomed in, but that's all it is. This is just a little snapshot of one little engagement that can happen. So you can have that kind of detail when you're talking about something that's that small scale. And most people don't want to play that. And if you look at most people that play war games, I would say that the majority of the people are interested in strategic stuff, not tactical stuff. I'm not a strategy guy. I'm not saying I'm not any good at it. That's just not the narrative that I want to play. Somebody says, "Hey, let's play a war game." I don't want to play the role of the dictator of the country or even a major general or anything like that. I want to be the lieutenant or even smaller scale, because I want to know that I just got hit on the turret and it didn't penetrate, or it did and one of the guys in the crew was damaged. Or that's the movie that I want to see with that kind of detail. I've played those. You start getting real strategic, you got to worry about supply. And supply is an important part of warfare, but not a very interesting one as far as I'm concerned. There's only one war game that I've ever played that did supply really made it interesting. That's a video game called V for Victory. And you could mess with your supplies and give some guys good supply and weaken other ones so you could like advance in different areas. It was pretty cool the way they handled that. Yeah, Battlefront is where it's at for me. Horses for courses, exactly. I looked at the data sheet. Those little sheets you get for Battlefront, and I'm like, this is just like Command Decision that I played 100 times. It just doesn't provide the kind of detail. Or what's the name of that game that everybody plays? Flames of War. I was playing a game of Flames of War. I'm like, it's a long barrel Panzer III. Well, which one? Oh, it doesn't matter. What do you mean it doesn't fucking matter? Of course it matters. Is it an L or an M? No, they're all the same. No, they're not. I don't want to play that game. You know, actually, I'll play the game. I'm not going to paint anything for it. You know, like I'm worried about paint schemes and that kind of stuff. That's not where I want to be. That's introductory. And that's the thing that I like the most about DBA is I could finish every game. Well, I'm not worried about that anymore. I want the I want an interesting narrative. Maybe in 18 more years I'll change my mind and want to go back to it, but that doesn't mean I don't like their website. I do like the Flames of War website. This gray paint is way too watery. We may have to switch to Vallejo for it. Let's do that. Just depends on the color. All right. I really don't want to put Vallejo here and it soak all that up. So let's get Mr. Pringle's top. See if we can get this off. Something a little sharper. Usually this stuff comes right off and it's like, oh, but there was nothing paint on it to begin with. Yep, there we go. Whoop. Like I've always said about wargaming, the best way to get burned out is have the person who's doing all the legwork get burned out. You know, if I'm painting something and I don't like how it turns out and I try to fix it and I don't like how that turns out either, I'm going to go do something else. You know, if I'm playing a game and it isn't worth the amount of time that I'm putting into it, I'm just not interested in playing it. And I'm not really doing this for anybody else. I'm doing this for me. Yeah, this color should be okay. What is the stone? This is the color I was using for horse hoofs for a long time. So yeah, this is more geared towards, you know, you got this team and you got to go hunt the sniper down. Or you've got to, you know, or you're the sniper and you've got to take these people out. Or, you know, you got to go save a pilot or, you know, it's that kind of a thing. You know, I'm painting all these tanks because it's fun to paint tanks. Not that you're going to see more than a handful on the battlefield at one time. Well, why are you painting so many tanks? Well, why do 1/35th scale modelers paint tanks? They're not going to use them in a game. Seems pretty silly, doesn't it? No, they like painting tanks. And I got a good deal on a lot of these things. You know, went to a show one time, picked up like 35 T-34s. Like, now I don't have to cogitate about, man, I only have one model. Should I do it? Should I paint it this way? Yeah, just paint whatever the hell you want. You got plenty of them. You made plenty of them. Now I am going to use the shitty black, the shitty old cheapo black for the black. And the water should do fine. I don't think we need to do the Liquitex. No, let's go dark. Let's start darker. There's a game that people were raving about a while ago, and it was called, let's see if I can remember what it was called. Not Clash of Armor. It was called something like Red Star, White Cross, or something like that. I don't know who the hell it was made by. It seemed like it was made by the same type of the same people who came up with the Admiralty series came up with it. Admiralty series being the folks that were that Harpoon was based on. And if I pick up a set of rules and it's a World War II set of rules, first thing I go look at is the data on the vehicles. If the data on the vehicles like doesn't have enough information, I'm just not interested in playing it. You know, and the Admiralty series, the people who made Harpoon, they made their World War II set. I think I have it down here. It's called. Is this it right here? Yeah, this stuff right here. This is the Pacific one. Rising. This is Command at Sea. And Command at Sea has some great scenarios. There's scenario design. There's great stuff in here, but the data for the freaking game sucks. You're talking about you got 2 armor things. You got 2. You got a horizontal and a vertical, and that's it. Like, I don't want to play that shit. You know? But great for scenarios. It's just not my sort of thing. I gotta put this naval stuff away, or I'm gonna be. I'm still a naval war gamer at heart, and I have resisted getting back into it pretty successfully. No, probably some thanks to World of Warships. And a World of Warships is stupid, but at least it gets me to push some ships around and range estimate with them, and it keeps me from buying miniatures and dilute my attentions. You know, I can't be into everything, so. But yeah, that's the first thing I started gaming was World War II Command Decision, and then Sea Creed 4. And you know, as I've gotten older, I feel like I've got less and less free time. And you know, to be diluted into all kinds of different stuff. It'd be different maybe if I just like Mitch and just bought shit, right? Just bought shit and played it. But I gotta create these things, which I don't want to make it sound like it's torture or something. This is actually the therapeutic part of the hobby. Gaming is not therapeutic at all. It's fun, but it's not therapeutic. This is. That's why I do it first thing in the morning. Because the rest of my day can go to shit, but at least I had a good painting session. Yeah, Battlefront seems to be pretty popular there in the UK. I don't know that I like that whole codex thing. Like, you got this for Kursk. Well, what about stuff in Northwest Europe? Well, that's in another book. Oh, well, can I buy that one yet? No, it's not out yet. I'm just like, just come out with all the rules. I know they probably have some reason why they do it, but it doesn't really matter to me. That's not really my. It just doesn't have the amount of detail that I'm looking for it. And so chain of command is close. You know, if this rule set that I'm using hadn't never been created, I'd probably be using chain of command. Or making my own thing and being unsuccessful because I'm not retired, so I can't work on this stuff all the time. And people that work on rules really need to work on rules, not paint shit and work on rules, because you can't do it all. Okay, we're going to do this little building. Okay, get it all finished up and then move to the other ones. Actually, I was thinking it was 3, but I guess there's 4. Well, this is all the same thing, but we're going to do this little building right here. You know, just like DBA worked for me for a while, and some people were like, it's too generic. Well, I definitely see their point. You know, if it was World War, and I said it before, if this was a World War II game, I wouldn't be playing it. Somebody asked me, "You ever played Phil's World War II rules?" No, fuck no. Absolutely not. World War II is like my religion. I can't have something that generic. Okay, we're done with this one. Let's flip it over. Believe me, you never really tire. You just switch employers and work for your wife. That's okay. I'd rather work for my wife. What if you don't have a wife? That when you're really retired? The worst thing about working is that it's impossible to take time off. And when you do take time off, you got to do everything, leave it done, come back and fix everything. Even when things are done, you come back and they've ran into the friggin' iceberg. And it's not only the fixing, it's that new things are happening while you're trying to fix the past. That's really the problem. So, that's why that situation that we had in Mexico was so frustrating because, I got to go back to work, man. I could smell the cinders from here. I got to be back at work, not because I want to go back to work. I don't give a fuck if I ever go back to work, but I'm just saying that, I need to be there. Like calling in sick. I never call in sick because, if I can't be there one day, cleaning up after everything the next day, be even, it's bad enough when I schedule to be gone, leave everything done, and it goes to shit. If it's not scheduled and a surprise, I'm like, I don't want to go back to, I don't want to fix that shit. Where do you begin? I don't know how the hell I stayed as calm as I did yesterday, but yesterday was a mother, and I was still being pretty successful at it, but, you know, not my first rodeo. It is just so damn difficult to take time off. I have very little time off compared to the standard for being 30 years where I'm at, and I can't use all my days. It's you get punished for using your days. You create so much freaking work. Maybe we need that global economic collapse to have some time off. So I'm looking forward to retirement, but that's 15, 20 years away. And I'm not working in my 70s. Not going to. Just out of principle. Let's just hope I can retire before I get the shakes. Like, great, now I can't fucking paint. And what you don't want to tell me, I know, watch people type it now, is, oh, you've been there over 30 years. How come you can't retire? Well, because I don't have one of them pension type jobs. All right. Keep thinking there's an inner floor here. I'm going to pick this up. It's going to hit the ground. And that's the problem with these resin buildings is they are heavy and brittle, and it will destroy themselves. I know this is looking pretty shitty right now, but it won't. So you got to keep yourself. I got to keep myself on a really short leash. Otherwise, I'll paint this lintel and this one over here, this one over here. Like, no, let's do this little bit. Let's do this small little building part first, and then we'll work our way around. Sounds like I should get a divorce before I retire, huh? But I like this. I don't have to get these done by any particular time. Doesn't really matter as long as you're working on it. If you're working towards a goal every day, doesn't really matter. You know, and I could come across a model of an Italian tank, go, yeah, I'll paint an Italian tank for the desert, and then come back to this. Doesn't really matter. That whole painting for the, I got to get this done by a convention. Them days are over. I'm not going back to them. Leave that for people that don't have anything to do. I already got too many demands on my time. I don't choose to do this hobby to get stressed out about something else. Well, one thing's for sure, I'm painting without my contacts. I don't have to go back and touch anything up. I see all the mistakes right off the bat. Okay, we got this one. Got that one. Got that one. Got that one. Got those. Okay, so now we're going to lighten this up. Probably going to be two more colors. This one and then probably two on top of it. That might actually be too big of a step. That's a little better. See, I don't plan on building stuff for a con anymore. I don't plan on taking my dame to a con. I'm not going to get pigeonholed into like, okay, you got 2 more hours to get this game done. Nope. Those kind of being rushed and all that nonsense, you can leave that for the people that aren't employed. I get enough rushing to do anyways to bring that into my own personal time. I went on vacation recently. I was in a good mood, calm, all the time until it was time to start getting back to work, and I could just feel like the fucking pressure on you. Nope, I get enough of that. That's why I like doing this, and like nothing ever goes fucking wrong here. Do I watch Tick much? I try to. Um, I really like him. I really like him. I only have one gripe with him. Well, two gripes. One of them is not really a gripe. He lets his viewers get too much to him. There's people out there that are just out there to cause trouble. I think the guy's pretty balanced. Um, I also like that he's a history guy who's not a Marxist. um, no, I think he's pretty balanced, and the only my only gripe with him is, and it's not really a gripe because he does a hell of a lot of work for us for free. Okay, so you have to keep that. You can't give somebody a hard time when they volunteer to do something, and you don't do anything other than bitch about what somebody volunteers about. And that's just kind of not cool, right? You should know better. But his speaking style is, I could never do what he does because it's a whole lot of technology with editing videos. It is. I'm a little bit of editing videos. It is just extremely time consuming, which is okay. But then when it's time to crunch the video down, the video editor doesn't wants to misbehave, and it'd be like if I was painting this and all of a sudden this paint size, yeah, I don't want to be on there anymore. It just like disappears. It's herding cat type of thing. But he has this speaking style that he always ends every sentence in the same way. And once you hear that, it's kind of hard to get it out of your head. And that's just his speaking style or the way he's decided to do it. Um, but it kind of drones on and on. But he's his style of giving history enough details that things are interesting. Um, I found him because he did videos on a game that I'm a big fan of, which is Close Combat. He apparently claims that's what got him into World War II, and it just took off from there. And Close Combat's a great freaking game, and that's how I encountered him several years ago. And now I think he does his history thing full time. But I really like him. I think he wants to get to the truth, which I don't think enough people do. A lot of people are just like, I want him to reinforce my opinions I already have, and I'm not willing to change my opinions. I don't think he's that way. At least I don't perceive him that way. I really like his content. Have I watched every video he's done? No, because I'm not interested in the politics stuff at all. I'm not interested in, was Hitler a socialist or not? I just don't. I don't care. It's not what I'm there for. You know, um, but and he does have some perspectives. Whether they're right or wrong, they're different than the stuff that we grew up learning about the Second World War. So it kind of. I really like his content. The Stalingrad one, I think I made it a third of the way through. It's just I'm not a Stalingrad fan. There's not. It's. it's just not my idea of slugging it out in this urban environment is just not my thing. But the Crusader one's awesome. And I actually hadn't finished it. I probably got 80% of the way through, and now I'm halfway through the Ghazala one. It's pretty good. And the little icons he uses with the little tank commander, who the commanders, it just helps you put all the pieces together. You know, I really like his content. Yeah. Once I find out that somebody is just interested in doing a program to reinforce their own opinions and not really get to the truth as best as you could, I'm just not interested. You know, you're just basically watching politicians. You know. But is that really the case? No, I think he does a great job, and it's free. You know, I mean, I guess you could Patreon to him, but I'm sorry, I've just never done that. You know, it's just not my thing. You know, I don't want to pay people for it, and I don't want people to pay me for my content because then it gives them a say in it. And it's not that I don't want people to have a say in it, but I'm just saying that I do the stuff that I do for the hobby so that I can continue move forward, not for giving other people a voice. It's not that I want to silence any of you guys. It's just that, you know, we got to keep this train moving, you know. And maybe along the way, you know, we can have some cool conversations. We talk about some different stuff, and but it's mainly to stay on track. You know, I used to watch talk. I used to listen to talk radio, and talk radio is either sports, which I don't know. There's anything I care less about than sports, because not only do sports not interest me, but people that are sports fans are just dickheads. There's absolutely, you know, they're like people that are like political junkies. This team's great, and no, we got screwed. And I'm like, I don't want to listen. I'm tired of you being a child. You know, I grew up in a sports centric town, and you know, it kind of it turned me off of it completely. You know, and so it's either sports or politics, which again, you got people that want to get in arguments about somebody. They want to go to bat for somebody who's basically dirty. Doesn't really narrow it down. They're pretty much all. So I don't get any of those things. So you know, there's some history programming that I've listened to that in the background. But what ends up happening is even as much as I like Audible and stuff like that, it just I end up it makes me a little too. I fall asleep. So I found that this at least allows me to stay awake a little bit more. And otherwise, you know, after like 15 minutes, I'd think about something like, oh, let me go check out and see if there's any deals on eBay or something like that. I'm like, that's not going to get this house completed. And I really wish I could do this and watch television or something, but I can't. I mean, my other room had a TV in the same room, and if the TV was on, I'd be like, oh shit, my paint's drying, you know. That doesn't work. So it doesn't work for me. Those of you that can do it, you're blessed, but I can't do that. I wish I could. His market garden. I hadn't seen that one. I haven't seen the Coreland one either. Grad one, the Crusader one, some of his shorter stuff. I like his Crusader one because I didn't start watching until it was done. It's like not leaving me hanging. I'll watch another episode. His Ghazala one has some editing mistakes in it. And he talks about some stuff and then the drawing doesn't, there's no point in bringing that up to him. You know, it's difficult. And I don't know if he has an editor. I think he was talking about paying somebody to do that kind of stuff. But I don't know. But as a general rule, I like his contact. I like his delivery, even though it's, there's a guy that is a professor that I listened to a couple of his things on Audible, a couple of his lectures, and maybe the same way as well. There's things that I keep repeating over and over again, like, man, it's really annoying when Tony does this, that, and the other. That's just the way we are. There's things that our delivery system, but I'm not a professional speaker or anything like that. But this particular guy that did with the lectures, he would have this after a while, and it's like once you hear that, you can't unhear it, and it just ends up being distracting. But I guess maybe I haven't seen that many Tix videos now that I think about it. But I do like his content. I like his content better than Dan Carlin's, because Tick gives you a lot of, like, he talks about the units, and then I can extrapolate. Okay, all right, this unit had, and sometimes he tells you, like, this guy had this many honeys, and this unit had this many grants, and I can start, the 135th scale modeler in me goes, okay, they'd be painted like this, and then have these markings, and. I think the fact that he likes that kind of level of detail is also work as well. But I don't watch his Corland thing. But you can't complain about him much. He's doing it for free. You can enjoy it for no cost. And other than, I can't listen to most of it in the car because it's very map heavy, which I like. That's probably the best thing about him, is it's extremely map heavy. And that's how I understand it. I am a huge map fan. Huge. I am really good at maps. That is, I do that stuff for a living ish, and I've always been good at it, even before I did that for a living. And I dig maps, and I understand that. It helps my understanding tremendously. And his videos are not only they map heavy, they have counters, and the guy on the picture on the counter and the different units is just, and I know a lot of it is just kind of, when he moves some of these things across the desert, it's kind of approximations of where they would be, because a lot of the information just isn't there. You can't find some of the stuff, but it gives you the gist of these movements. And, like, there's no way that when these things swung around, he knew with all those units stayed in that same formation all the way through. But he does all the heavy lifting for you. You can go in and fill in the details if you need more details. So. I'd imagine Market Garden's really popular in the UK. I'm not a huge fan of things that are paratrooper heavy. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any veterans. It's just that paratroopers just normally don't have a bunch of combined arms with them. So, you're talking about guys that are, they don't have all the tools that they would have. I don't mean to, necessarily in proportions. I'm just saying that, paratroopers don't have tanks. There might be tanks that are assigned to them, but, I've never really been in a Market Garden. Don't dislike it, but I guess that's an older one. No, I don't remember him doing one on that. But that's a shitload of work to do one of his videos. It's still early. But that's how I came across him, is from, I think I was like, I'd just gotten this computer, and I'm like, all right, I haven't played the Close Combat series in a long time. Let's see what's available. So I go to YouTube, and this guy's got all kinds of Close Combat videos. And then he'd already started his history thing, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Close Combat's almost the perfect game. If you have if you had multiplayer with multiple people on the same side, that'd be really damn near ideal. Okay, I think we're done with the mirrors, the windows in this color, in this little section here. So let's lighten it up a little bit more. And pick out some details to make it look worn out. Now you're going to listen to Tick, and you're going to pick that thing up if you haven't picked it up already. That he ends every sentence he starts talking like this, and then he ends like that. He ends like on a down. And maybe I do too, you know. Maybe we all do. But once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It ends up being a little distracting. Did you like the Market Garden movie? I watched that in the last 5 years, and I wasn't impressed. I didn't hate the movie. It's a little too cameo heavy. And half the cameos, I'm not interested in seeing anything about. They could have gotten rid of get rid of half the characters I didn't like, and it would have been better. TK's entertained me through many a painting session. Yeah, I think he could have me fooled, but I think he wants to get to the root of the thing. I don't think he's got a drum he wants to beat. Some of these paints are like, man, I should replace them. But this is old paint. This is, I mean, this thing's probably 20 years old or older. And there's still half the paint in there. Anybody else? It's up to the tick level. Problem is you can't listen to them while you're driving because they're just, you don't need to listen to something that's going to constantly make you want to look at the screen. And like I said, he's very map heavy. You can't watch like any of those map heavy things. The Kings and Generals. That's another one that's really map heavy, and the other channel that reminds me of Kings and Generals. The other thing that helps with Tick is he has a very easy to understand accent. So for those of us that are foreigners to the English language, you get some people on there across the pond. I can't understand them. I can't understand them. They speak very fast, or they speak, or they omit words, and that's just their standard of. That's just what they're used to. So. Or they speak clear, but their volume level is way too low on their video. Not to mention on his names. I can't watch his stuff anymore. I don't understand. I mean, I've got headphones on, turned up as high as I can. I don't know what the poor man's saying. I hope that's not the case for me. I usually talk louder than I'm talking right now. Just the girls are all asleep. I don't think anybody's ever accused me of being quiet. The Redcoat History podcast channel is pretty good for pre-20th century wars. Redcoats. Doesn't spend a lot of time talking about one of the top 10 worst empires in history, does it? Redcoats. I can't believe I actually read that. How regional are your accents? Or is there like people like yeah, there are. Because there's some folks that I normally would have a hard time understanding and I actually do okay with. And then there's some people that just like, oh, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what you're saying, sir. Can I get subtitles, please? And it's just, exposure. I wonder if I went over there and spent a year, I'd be able to pick up like, oh, that's what he's saying, just because of context. But who do you people from jolly old England have trouble understanding? Heck, it might be even people on your side of the pond. I can pretty much understand everybody here in the United States unless they're Cajun or something like that. All right, time for more tea. Be right back. Yeah, I like Tick. Like I said, I feel like he's pretty balanced. Um, he's not trying to reinforce a position he's already. Seems to me, I could be wrong. One guy I never liked was who's this English guy, and it's not because he's English. You guys know that. Once I got over 1588, we're all good now. What's this guy's name? He passed away. he passed away too early. Like the guy's not wasn't that old. It's a guy that wrote The Face of Battle, and he was always on history programming in the early '90s. And he just seemed like he was. I don't know. Maybe they had him on there for a contrarian position, but he was always like they'd have somebody talk about something, and he would come in. Well, that's not really what happened, or I can't remember what the guy's name is, but I have his book, and his book seemed okay. I read about half of it, and I have his book because somebody gave me his book. What's the guy's name here? John Keegan. I never cared for Keegan. He just seemed like he was honest. Yeah, I just didn't. I just didn't think he was. I don't know. Maybe I was looking. Maybe, and I mean, in like he was in interviews and stuff like that. I don't know. That's kind of the feeling that I was getting from him. He's always was on those History Channel programmings in the maybe it's early 2000s. I don't know, but the guy wasn't that old. I mean, the guy was probably in his 50s, or I don't know if he was even in his early 60s. He must have got some kind of cancer thing and died before like 65 or something like that. That's way too young to be freaking dying. And there's a ton of historians I haven't seen. Because if the programming is about a subject matter that I wasn't interested in, especially in the land of when it was only television, I'm just not watching the show. I mean, there might have been some guy I really liked, but he was, did a colonial history or something like that, or the American Civil War. So I don't care how good you are. If you're going to do stuff about the American Civil War, I'm just like I'm tuning out. I'm not watching that. You know, I, it might be somebody that I may have really enjoyed, but they just focused on subject matter that just didn't interest me in the slightest. There's few wars that interest me as little as the American Civil War. I just not really interested in listening to these people that are literally one-sided. Or here's a perfect example of someone who I always thought was extremely one-sided, and it might have just been because that was his personality, or he was actively trying to be that way. But remember when the old gunnery sergeant used to do that stuff? The guy that was from Full Metal Jacket, Ermy. Any programming him is like it just he's just not a very objective. And obviously he's not a historian, but I'm just saying he's not an objective presenter. you know. And I really don't like the guy. I mean, I don't hate the guy, but it just, I could see right through his shtick, and it didn't resonate with him. Lots of people like him. I'm like, it's just he's not being um, objective. It's like, oh, it's American, so it's great. Oh, it's not American, so it's a piece of shit. It's like, look, there's lots of good things that are American. There's lots of bad things that are American. You need to call things for what they are. I don't really like watching any kind of program that is as objective as, say, Clarkson. And he's entertaining at times, but he's definitely not objective. And I don't think that that's really even what the point of it is. But it's just like you just get tired of. I just get tired of hearing things that people do no wrong, and everybody else says, "Yeah, you're always wrong, but I'm always right," kind of thing. Like that gets old. Okay, now we're getting somewhere with like the fourth or fifth color. Now we're getting somewhere with this kind of a thick wash, wet dry brush type of approach. Which I don't paint my figures this way, but yep. Ermi was good at that Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen. I don't watch horror movie stuff. Should I watch it? Should I watch the first one first? I don't like horror movie stuff. I could probably handle that one because it's not supernatural. I don't watch supernatural shit. It puts ideas that are just bullshit in your head, and then you can't walk across a dark room. But like anything that can be solved with a firearm, I'm not scared of. That guy's really scary. More guns. I don't like the idea of innocent pretty girls stuff happening to them. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too noble. I don't know. I mean, I don't even have to even get in bed with them. I'm just saying it's the idea of it is just kind of sick. It kind of bothers me. If you're gonna murder people, murder ugly people. You know, in a medieval story, the princess is always cute. You don't have some ugly princess where people are like tripping over, killing themselves to go rescue. You never hear about that. I'm here to save you, my lady. Oh dear. I think I'm going to put the dragon back, you know? Oh, man. The words backwards today? Yeah, they still are. But hopefully they're not backwards on your screen. Ben, that's your job to keep me straight. I don't know. If it's broken, I don't know how to fix it. I've given up on trying to film with a computer, in case you haven't noticed. Last thing I need to do to not get things accomplished is spend about an hour trying to get the disconnecting errors. This directly from the phone seems to be working okay. Maybe I'll try it again one day. I need to try it again one day when I don't need to get stuff accomplished. Okay, those look good. Obviously, we still have the treatments to do on the top of it and the shutters, which that's a whole other scenario trying to figure out, decide on what color shutters I'm going to do. Yeah, there's a whole host of movies I've never seen. That just happens to be one of them. I was on that flight and it had like, I don't know, probably 120 different movies to watch. Napoleon was the only one that even remotely interested me. As bad as that was. Why am I worried about all this? Well, we're going to take pictures when we're gaming this. We don't want this like, oh, I need to edit that because that doorway didn't look good kind of thing. Yeah, I want this to look good. Those folks in those wargaming magazines set up a level of expectation that we need to meet. Yeah, I'm glad I switched to the Vallejo for this. This is covering a lot better, especially since I'm going to water this paint down anyways for this process. Now, went over a little bit. Okay, that looks good from that angle. It looks good from there. And I'm going to take a little bit. Actually, I'll probably just, I don't need to lighten this. Yeah, let's add a little bit of white to it. A little bit and a ton comes out. This white is very, very watery. Matter of fact, take a look at this. I should have been painting the top of this the same color. All right, well, we can go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do the little treatments on top of the windows. Just this little block of this building. Now, whoever made the master of this particular building did a really good job. I mean, there's some parts of it that are rough, but there's all kinds of details that could be brought to life. I don't think that's going to work. I think we need to cover this entire thing with this dark gray first. I'm probably going to have to stop before too much longer. Let me at least paint this base color on the treatments at the top, and then we'll call it a morning. It's probably going to take a good week to get this done. Maybe a little bit longer. 20 hours worth of work, something like that, for the whole building. All right. So this is where we're going to leave off. Still lots left to do. Thanks for stopping by, folks. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, where we can finish what we started. Yeah, if you look at the side view of these windows here, that's kind of what I'm looking for. You know, I want them to look old, but I don't want them just to look like they're just kind of thrown together. Okay, folks, thanks for stopping by. We'll see you guys on the next one. Enjoy your Saturday. Bye-bye.